One of the most common claims that can be heard from campaigners who believe Luke Mitchell was wrongfully convicted of the murder of Jodi Jones is that the crime was committed by a member of the victim's own family. It's often said that her family had guilty knowledge and that on the evening Jodi's body was found, her family had left the house to look in that area before they should even have known she was missing. This topic has been discussed online and on various podcasts, and misinformation has made its way into the common narrative surrounding what happened that evening. In this video, we're going to have a look at the source of this particular claim, and we're going to see exactly where it came from. Why am I making this video? Because the family of a 14-year-old murder victim have not only endured the loss of their daughter, but have been subjected to specific accusations which are provably not based in reality. This isn't about who killed Jodi Jones, it's about clearing up the lies. As a bit of background to the case, Jodi Jones did not return home on the evening of June 30th, 2003, after leaving her house at around 5 p.m, according to family members, to go and meet her boyfriend Luke Mitchell. Both were 14. Jodi's mum texted Luke's mobile phone after 10 p.m. that evening to tell Jodi to come home. She texted Luke because Jodi's phone was broken. Luke phoned Jodi's mum back to say that she wasn't with him. He alleges that she didn't turn up earlier in the evening and that he hadn't seen her. He then receives a further phone call from Jodi's mum and agrees to help look for her. The following is the source of the claim that members of Jodi's family left the house to look for her earlier than they should have, suggesting they already knew that something bad had happened to her. It's from the book Innocence Betrayed by Sandra Lean. The book referenced has been a trusted text for campaigners who believe that someone other than Mitchell killed Jodi. Its contents have been taken at face value by many supporters, and its assertions shared, shouted and stated as fact, all in the name of justice. In reality, it is an example of how subtle manipulation of information and fundamental errors can grow arms and legs, expanding into a monster of misinformation with detrimental effects on not only truth and justice, but the victims themselves and their families. Despite the author allegedly no longer being involved in the case, the book remains available to buy online on multiple platforms. This is another reason I believe it's important to make this video. The following is also documented in a blog that I will link below. The book states, at 10:38 p.m, while he was taking his dog Mia out for her last walk of the evening, Luke received a text from Judith's phone clearly intended for Jodi. Right Toad, 2 weeks grounding, say bye to Luke. Luke immediately called Judith to tell her he had not seen Jodi all evening. 7 minutes later, at 10:49, Judith called back in tears to say Jodi was nowhere to be found and she was calling the police. Another 10 minutes later, at 10:59, Judith called Luke again. He told her he had just arrived at the new battle entrance to Ronsdyke Path with his dog and was about to make his way up to East Houses looking for Jodi on the way. But did Luke actually say that he had just arrived at the new battle entrance to Ronsdyke Path in this call? The only related quote from Judith Jones, Jodi's mother, seems to be this, as mentioned in the book. In Judith's first recorded statement to police at 2:45 a.m. on July 1st, she said Luke told her, in the 10:59 p.m. phone call, he was coming up the path on his bike. On page 146 of the book, we have the claim that one of the most glaring anomalies in the search trio going to the path story is that of the timing. If Luke was indeed at the new battle entrance at 10:59 p.m, as all of the known evidence suggests, does it? And if he made his way directly up the path after that phone call, he would be expected to have reached the junction of the paths where the search trio was waiting at around 11:10, or 11:10 p.m. The trio spotted Luke's torch when he was between half and 2/3 of the way up the path and waited for him to reach them, therefore they must have been there before 11:10 p.m. There was a short discussion before the decision was taken to double check the path and they all started walking slowly back down. Janine and Stephen reported having to slow down to allow Alice to catch up on a few occasions. The timing of Jodi's family leaving to head to the path to meet Luke was given as around 11:03 p.m. Sandra alleges that this cannot be correct. She says in her book, if the search trio arrived at the other end of the path at 11:23 p.m. to be waiting for him, which if they left Alice's house at 11:03 p.m. is the earliest they could have been there, then Luke must have taken at least 24 minutes to travel the path to the point where the search trio saw his torch approaching. That would be nearly 4 times longer than the police timing suggested, which is a suspiciously long time. She attempts to convince the reader that Luke absolutely must have been at the New Battle Abbey entrance at 10:59, and therefore the search trio must have met Luke no later than 11:10 p.m. But she bases this on her own interpretation of Jodi's mum's statement and understanding of where Luke was during the 10:59 call. It doesn't tie in with what Luke said in his statements, and she makes a mistake regarding where Luke was when he received the 10:49 call. She seems to believe that Luke was at home, when this was not the case. She states in her book, the explanation seems obvious at first glance. Luke's timings must be wrong. The 10:59 call placed Luke at the New Battle entrance to the path at that point. So it's worth noting that at this stage the police timed the walk from Luke's house to the entrance to the path at 7 minutes, at a brisk pace. Luke arrived at the New Battle entrance exactly 10 minutes after picking up Judith's 10:49 call. How does she know that though? Leaving him just 3 minutes to have the phone conversation with Judith and the short conversation with his mother, get the torch from his brother, put the dog back on the lead and set off. The timing for this part of Luke's journey to the path therefore is confirmed. No, it's not. This is Luke's statement, which was read out during the evidence of DC Alan Towers, and it's from the 1st of July, so the early hours after the murder, and it was taken at Dalkeith Police Station. He said, I got home about 25 to 10, David High phoned me part of the way home, when I was in my room about 20 past 10:30, and got a text from her mum's phone saying, right Jodi, you're in big trouble for being late. I phoned Jodi's mum right back and told her Jodi wasn't with me. Her mum sounded shocked and I said, where is she? As far as she knew, she was on her way to see me. Her mum said she would phone her gran and her sister to check up. She hung up. I took Mia, my Alsatian dog, out for a walk around the field. When I was out, I got another call from Jodi's mum. She was crying and saying that Jodi hadn't been seen since she left the house about 6 o'clock. She said that she was going to phone the police to report her missing. I went back to the house. I'd only been out about 10 minutes. When I got in, I told my mum what was happening and that Jodi was missing. She said that I better go out and look for her. Clearly, the call where he was walking his Alsatian dog around the field was the 10:49 call where Judith called back to speak to Luke. And he wasn't in the house, he was outside. The mistake seems to originate here. Sandra asserts that at 10:38 p.m, while he was taking his dog Mia out for her last walk of the evening, Luke received a text from Judith's phone, clearly intended for Jodi. Right Toad, 2 weeks grounding, say bye to Luke. Luke immediately called Judith to tell her he had not seen Jodi all evening. So that's what she says in the book. However, Luke was at home when Judith's text was received and a return call was made. She then goes on to say, 7 minutes later at 10:49, Judith called back in tears to say Jodi was nowhere to be found and she was calling the police. But this is the call that was received when he was out walking the dog in the fields. Luke's mum also backed this up during her James English interview, telling viewers that Luke was out with the dog when he received this call. Sandra Lean has this the wrong way round, and that has a catastrophic knock-on effect. Note that Luke says, I went back to the house, possibly indicating he was not already heading back from his walk with Mia when Judith's call came through. If Luke came back home straight after the 10:49 p.m. call and had been out for a total of 10 minutes, like he mentioned, then did he receive the call after being out walking for a 5-minute distance and it therefore took him 5 minutes to return? What this does now allow for is a situation whereby if Luke simply advised that he was coming up the path, it could be misconstrued as meaning either I'm coming up the path right now or I'm coming up the path soon as. The example of the statement from Judith provided in the book doesn't make clear whether Luke was intending to come up the path or was already on the path. Sandra appears to have made the assumption that he already was, even though it doesn't fit with the rest of the evidence, including Luke's and his own mother's version of events, and it doesn't tie in with statements given by all of the others regarding the time they reached the complex. There would seemingly be no timeline anomaly if Luke did not leave home until, say, 11:09 p.m. He would reach the entrance to Ronsdyke Path 7 minutes later at 11:16 p.m. A further 7 minutes and Luke would meet up with the search party at approximately 11:23 p.m, which equates with the approximate duration their journey would have taken. It was later timed by a police reconstruction that it was a 5-minute walk back down the path to the V-shaped break in the wall from where the trio had met Luke. If they had met Luke at around 11:23 p.m, they would have arrived at the V-shaped break at around 11:28 p.m. This permits sufficient time for the events to have occurred prior to the police being called. Sandra's point was that Jodi's family couldn't have left her grandmother's house at the claimed time of 11:03 p.m. and then met Luke at 11:10 p.m, the time she tries hard to convince the reader that they must have met at. This is because it would have taken Jodi's family around 20 minutes to walk from her grandmother's house to the area where they met Luke. She presents different scenarios in her book by where they could have arrived at 11:10 p.m, suggesting they may have got a lift to the location or that they lied about the location they left from and had left from somewhere much closer to the scene, again suggesting guilty knowledge. None of this is supported by any evidence whatsoever, and her own faux pas renders her theories unreasonable. Other evidence that backs up that Jodi's family members had not yet met Luke by 11:10 p.m. are that at the trial, a call from Judith to Jodi's sister's mobile is mentioned. The time of this call was 11:20 p.m. according to court transcripts. Jodi's grandmother said at trial that the trio were at an area called the Complex when this call was received. This is the area before Ronsdyke Path. No one mentioned Luke being with them when this call connected. Jodi's mum did not say that they had met Luke yet, neither did any of the others, and Luke has never mentioned the others receiving a call once he had met them. Unfortunately, this is just one example of innocence betrayed misconstruing statements or witness testimony, or presenting false information resulting in a narrative being adopted by well-meaning supporters who believe they are speaking out against injustice. This isn't justice. Presenting false information about a victim's family who have already endured something so horrific. Let's not forget that what happened to Jodi Jones was utterly horrific. Shouldn't be acceptable. The book Innocence Betrayed remains on sale despite there being, I believe, a strong argument that its errors have resulted in further injustice.